Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The air in the kitchen was thick with the comforting aroma of garlic and simmering tomato sauce. Scarlett carefully set 2 plates of pasta on the dining table, hoping for a peaceful lunch with Gladys, her husband John's sister. But the moment Gladys saw the dish, her expression twisted with disdain. "You expect me to eat this garbage?" Gladys demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut through the serene afternoon. Scarlett froze, stunned by the venom in her tone. "It's just pasta. I made it fresh for us," she replied cautiously. But Gladys wasn't listening. With a dramatic flair, she grabbed the plate, marched to the trash can, and dumped its contents with a resounding clatter. "This is disgusting," she sneered, turning to Scarlett with a smirk. "I'll just make my instant noodles." Scarlett's jaw tightened as anger surged through her. "What are you doing? That was perfectly good food," she snapped, unable to contain her frustration. Gladys shrugged nonchalantly, already rummaging through the pantry for her preferred meal. "If it's edible, it's trash, simple as that." At that moment, Scarlett realized this was more than just an insult to her cooking. It was a symbol of the disrespect and hostility that Gladys had shown since their arrival. Scarlett clenched her fists, swallowing the retort bubbling in her throat. She glanced at the clock. John and the kids would be back soon, and she didn't want them walking into a storm. Gladys, oblivious to the tension she'd created, leaned against the counter with her steaming cup of instant noodles. "You really should learn how to cook properly, Scarlett," she added with a mockingly sweet tone. Scarlett's eyes narrowed, but instead of engaging further, she turned on her heel and left the kitchen. Her heart pounded as she walked away, her mind already racing with the implications of the encounter. This was the moment Scarlett knew something had to change. The fragile piece in their temporary living arrangement was hanging by a thread, and Gladys had just taken the first scissors to it. The cramped 2-bedroom apartment in the heart of the city had served Scarlett, John, and their 2 children well, until the kids began growing and bumping into walls, furniture, and each other. The decision to build a new home wasn't impulsive. It was born out of necessity. "This is going to be our sanctuary," John had said one evening as the family pored over blueprints, their youngest tugging on Scarlett's sleeve for attention. When John's parents, Robert and Cindy, mentioned during a New Year's gathering that they were considering selling their house and moving into a senior living community, the idea to temporarily combine households emerged. John had made the suggestion over dinner. "We could move in here for the next 6 months. It would save us rent, and we'd be around to help you prepare for your next chapter." Robert adjusted his glasses and nodded thoughtfully. "That might actually work. The house has more than enough space for everyone." Cindy, ever the optimist, chimed in. "And I'd love to have the grandchildren around more. What do you think, Scarlett?" Scarlett hesitated for a moment, glancing at her children playing in the yard. "If you're sure we wouldn't be imposing." "Of course not," Cindy replied with a warm smile. The move was hectic but smooth. Scarlett and John packed their lives into neatly labeled boxes, ready for this temporary arrangement. The children were ecstatic about living in a house with a big backyard, but their excitement dimmed on the first day when they encountered their reclusive aunt, Gladys. "Keep it down out there. Some of us are trying to sleep," Gladys had yelled from her window, her disheveled figure looming over the yard. The children froze, their laughter replaced by silence. "Who's that, Mommy?" their youngest asked, his small hand gripping Scarlett's tightly. "That's Aunt Gladys," Scarlett replied, her voice calm but her stomach nodding. Dinner that evening was tense. Gladys didn't join them, preferring to remain locked in her room. "She's always been difficult," Cindy explained softly. "But she's family, and we do our best to support her." Scarlett nodded, but unease settled in her chest. This arrangement was going to be more challenging than she had anticipated. The tension in the house was not new, but Scarlett quickly realized its roots ran deeper than she imagined. Gladys, John's younger sister, had been an enigma for years, rarely attending family gatherings and shrouded in a cloud of estrangement. Over dinner one evening, Scarlett finally broached the subject with Cindy, her mother-in-law. "She wasn't always like this," Cindy began, her voice heavy with regret. "Gladys was such a bright girl, sharp, witty, always full of ambition, but everything changed when she failed her university entrance exam." John, seated beside Scarlett, added grimly, "It crushed her. She'd pinned all her hopes on getting into her dream college. When she didn't make it, she refused to settle for anything less. She dropped out of the backup school we begged her to attend. And then," Scarlett pressed gently, sensing there was more to the story. Cindy sighed, her hands trembling slightly as she folded her napkin. "She tried working, but every job ended in disaster. Either she clashed with coworkers or quit, claiming they didn't respect her. Each failure made her more withdrawn, more resentful. Eventually, she stopped trying altogether. Scarlett glanced at John, whose jaw tightened. "You never told me," she said softly. "I thought she'd grown out of it," John admitted. "She always found excuses to avoid us, so I assumed she was busy. I had no idea she was still living with Mom and Dad, much less in this state." Later that evening, as Scarlett lay in bed, the puzzle pieces started falling into place. Gladys's biting remarks and erratic outbursts weren't just rudeness, they were the outward signs of years of pent-up frustration and insecurity. Scarlett couldn't help but feel a pang of pity, but it was overshadowed by an uneasy sense of foreboding. "I don't think she resents you," Scarlett told John, breaking the silence. "I think she resents herself, and that makes her dangerous." John didn't reply immediately, his gaze fixed on the ceiling. When he finally spoke, his voice was laced with resolve. "Then we'll have to tread carefully, for everyone's sake." It started with small provocations, Gladys leaving her dirty dishes in the sink for Scarlett to clean or muttering sarcastic comments under her breath. But soon, her behavior turned outright hostile. One evening, Scarlett found the dinner she had carefully prepared dumped in the trash. "Gladys, what is this?" Scarlett confronted her in the kitchen, holding the empty casserole dish. Gladys leaned against the counter, arms crossed, her expression a mix of boredom and disdain. "Your cooking is awful, Scarlett. I did everyone a favor." Scarlett's hands shook, but she held her ground. "This isn't just about the food. You've been treating this house and everyone in it like they owe you something. It has to stop." Gladys smirked, stepping closer. "And what are you going to do about it? You're just a guest here, same as me." Scarlett wanted to retort, but John appeared, his face dark with anger. "Enough, Gladys, you've crossed the line." "Oh please," Gladys scoffed. "Defending your little wife now, are we?" John's voice was low but firm. "We tried to help you, but you keep pushing everyone away. If this continues, you'll leave us no choice." Over the next week, Gladys's behavior escalated further, berating the children for laughing too loudly, slamming doors late at night, and even accidentally spilling coffee on Scarlett's favorite sweater. Scarlett and John finally reached a breaking point. "We can't live like this anymore," Scarlett said one night, her voice weary. "We need to think about the kids." John nodded solemnly. "I'll talk to Mom and Dad. We need to move forward without her." The following morning, the family gathered for a tense meeting. Gladys was told she would not be part of their future plans unless she took responsibility for her actions. Her parents offered her two choices: move to their brother's ranch to work or face living on her own. Gladys laughed bitterly but said nothing. Scarlett exhaled as the conversation ended, a weight lifting from her shoulders. The decision was final. Their family could finally begin to heal. On moving day, the tension was palpable. Gladys stood by the porch, her arms crossed, watching as Scarlett and John packed the last of their belongings into the moving truck. Cindy and Robert lingered nearby, their expressions heavy with concern. "So, you're just abandoning me?" grinned at Gladys as she looked at her parents, her tone sharp but laced with unease. John stopped mid-step, turning to face her. "Abandoning you?" "No, Gladys. You abandoned us the moment you decided disrespect and cruelty were your only language." Cindy stepped forward, her voice measured. "We've arranged for you to stay at Uncle Frank's ranch. You'll have work, structure, and a chance to prove you can stand on your own." Gladys's face hardened. "A ranch? What, you think I'm some cowgirl now?" Robert sighed. "It's either that or you figure it out on your own. We've done all we can." With no further argument, Gladys reluctantly agreed. As the truck rolled out of the driveway, Scarlett glanced back at the shrinking figure of Gladys, a mix of relief and sadness washing over her. Weeks later, news from the ranch painted a picture of Gladys grappling with the challenges of ranch life. The work was grueling, but it was forcing her to reflect on her choices. Meanwhile, Scarlett and John settled into their new home, relishing the peace they had long craved. One evening, as they unpacked a box in their cozy living room, John turned to his parents, who were sitting nearby. "Mom, Dad, I've been thinking, instead of you moving to that nursing home like you planned, why don't you stay here with us? This house has plenty of space, and we want you close." Cindy's eyes widened. "John, we didn't want to impose." "Nonsense," Scarlett chimed in with a warm smile. "You've done so much for us. This is your home too, for as long as you want." Robert's face softened, his voice thick with emotion. "That means more to us than you know." As the family gathered around the table that night, the glow of laughter and conversation filled the room. Scarlett looked around, her heart swelling with gratitude. Their journey had been rocky, but they had finally found their peace. a home filled with love and promise for the future.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.